Amazing. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you all. Do turn your videos on if you can. We love to be able to see everyone we're speaking to. Honestly, just so great to see some familiar faces already, as well as lots of new faces. Jess and I are super stoked to have you here. Just as we gather and more people join, we would love you to share where in the world you are in the chat and also what you do. Where in the world you are and also what you do. If you can share that in the chat, that would be amazing. Fantastic. Cool. And just while you're doing that, you're welcome to have video on. We love being able to see people. You will notice that you are on mute, which is because Jess and I will be running things today, so there won't be a chance to come off mute. But what we'll be doing is running into the training soon. Now, you don't have to have your video on. It's completely optional, completely up to you, but definitely encouraging you to consider doing that, which is good. So awesome. We're going to be getting underway very, very soon, which is great, and diving into things. But yeah, just great to start seeing in the chat where people are from and what people do. So I always love just seeing where everyone is. I'm actually in New Zealand right now, Christchurch, New Zealand, where I don't actually spend that much time, but as per my funny accent, I'm a Kiwi, I'm a New Zealander, and here for about a month. About a month at the moment. I spend most of my time between the Americas and also Europe. With most of our clients are actually US and Europe based, and Canada, of course, too, which is great. So awesome. Austin, Massachusetts, I love it. London, UK, awesome. Marina, awesome, so cool. Miami, outside Dallas, Portugal, hey Vera, love that. Omaha, very cool. Hungary, amazing. I love that. Boston, Louisiana, Idaho. Oh, so many great places here. If you're just joining us, we're just popping in the chat where you are in the world, where you're coming from today, and also what you do. Hertford, UK, I love it. Oh, so good. Boston, so many amazing places here, all named out, which is good. So, and different times of the day for everyone as well. So Jess and I were just mentioning before the call, it's kind of funny for me because it's actually in the morning here on Friday the 4th in New Zealand. It's like the future. So, it's going to be a good day, everyone, I promise. There we go. Hey, where are you right now, Jess?
I'm in Los Angeles. It's 12 noon right now, and it's like the first day where we broke this crazy heat wave where it's actually not like triple digits. So it's like nice and 85. It's just perfect.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. It's the other thing we were talking about just before is it's also kind of strange because right now for me it's winter. So it's the middle of winter right now, which seasons I've just arrived here a few days ago. So we're at very different parts of the world, all of us right now. Awesome. Fantastic. We're going to jump into things. So I'll hand over to Jess to get us started with today.
Sure. Hello and welcome to our creative business webinar. I'm Jess, if you don't know me already, designer and illustrator. I run my own creative business, Jess Miller Draws. And I've been working with my creative business coach, Logan Elliott, for over a year now. And Logan helped me craft SMART goals, price my offerings with confidence, and he keeps me accountable. And he helped me triple my monthly income, which is huge. And Logan has since worked with hundreds of designers and visual creatives, helping them leave their toxic day jobs and build a business of their dreams. So now I'm going to hand it over to Logan.
Amazing. So good to be here. And Jess and I have run a couple of webinars in the past as well. So just such a delight to be here with Jess again today, and just really excited about the workshop that we're going to be diving into today. So Jess has sort of shared some things, and you all know I'm a New Zealander. I'm originally from New Zealand and happen to be in New Zealand right now, which is fun. I'll share a couple of extra bits and pieces as well. So, I had my own business for 11 years. It was in the live event space in New Zealand, and got involved in education pretty early on in that journey. So I was working with universities in New Zealand right up to a master's level part-time while I was running my creative business. So it was pretty busy there for quite a few years. And eventually that evolved into me coaching and teaching and facilitating and launching my own programs. When I then sold my creative company, I then went into coaching and teaching full-time, helping visual creatives to grow their businesses. So as Jess mentioned, there's people we work with at different stages. Some people want to leave their day job. A lot of people do say, oh, they hate their day job, toxic day job. Some people say, oh, it's okay, but I want to do something that I'm more passionate about. We also have people that are already doing their thing, they're full-time in their business, or they might have a bit of part-time work and they really want to grow it. And then we work with a small number of people who have a bigger following. So, about 10% of people we work with have over 10,000 followers on Instagram. Most people actually don't that we work with have smaller followings, but they have this desire to grow. And, I often see the things that really bring people together in terms of their journey are people want to be more creative in the work that they do. They want to chase their own potential more because they feel like they're stuck in what they're doing, perhaps it's in a day job or not being able to grow the business. But also people want flexibility in their lives, flexibility, freedom. Maybe it's to spend more time with friends and family. Maybe it's time to do some travel. And it's probably to not have a boss and not have to confined, be doing certain things at certain times, to have more flexibility within that too. So I think, many of these things will bring everyone together here as well in terms of your desires. So that's what we're here to talk about, is growing a creative business. We're going to be sharing some amazing tips and tricks around that. And, we've got some really good points we're going to share. We also will have some Q&A time at the end of the call as well. So if you've got some questions you want to ask, we'll be diving them in. So just hold them for now, and then you can always pop them in the chat towards the end of the call. I'll let you know when the timing is. We did have a couple of pre-submitted questions as well. One other thing I do love to mention is that I do run retreats as well. So I've got some really fun entrepreneur retreats being planned at the moment. Can't launch them quite yet, can't talk about them quite yet, but there's some very exciting stuff coming up. So keep an eye out. I've run retreats over the last few years with an amazing friend of mine, Kat Coke, that some of you may know of as well. We did Morocco this year and Spain the year before, and France the year before that. So there's exciting things to be launched about retreats soon as well. Cool, awesome. So just before we kick into it, I'm going to share one more thing, is that you might have seen in the welcome email that we are giving away 3 freebie coaching calls with me. How that works is that you fill in a survey. Takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do. You're going to learn a bunch of stuff about yourself and your business on the survey as well. People find it really fascinating to fill in. And then what we do is we choose 3 people to get on a call with me, get on a half-hour call with me. And then we have Paul on my team to get on some extra calls as well. He's the business specialist on the team, the creative business specialist on the team as well. So it basically means you might get on a call with me or him from the team, and we'll choose a bunch of people to do that. And we've got my team, Celeste's here today as well. We'll be emailing the people to let you know who sort of gets on the calls and things like that too. So definitely keep an eye out for an email afterwards. And usually we try and send that out within a week or two. Awesome. So I'm going to drop that in now. That's the survey link. We'll include it afterwards. You can pop it open now, so you can do it later. I will drop it in the chat later on, and also we'll make sure it's in, put in the recording and things like that too. Awesome. Let's kick into things, because honestly, we've just got such a good plan for today, and I'm really, really excited. So do be prepared to take lots of notes, and as questions pop up, you can hold on to those questions and then drop them at the end as well. Awesome. So we're going to start with really going through these creative business tips. And these are things that I've seen over many years that visual creatives really need to think about. And sometimes they're things that you're just not thinking about. They're not on your radar. And one of the big premises I really see out there is that there's kind of this disconnect from the business stuff and the creative stuff, if we call it in a very general way. So when we talk about the creative stuff, that's your craft, that's your art. And what I see is that many people are really amazing at their creative craft, but they really struggle with the business side. The marketing, the finance, the management, it's kind of a bit boring. It's that side there. And often what we see is that people are wanting to start or grow their creative business, and they're struggling and it's not working, and they think it's the creative stuff. They think it's the craft. Oh, I'm not good enough. I need to learn more mediums. I need to get better. And look, sometimes that is the case, but it's very, very rare. For most people, that is not the thing in their way. For most people, it's the fact that that's their comfort zone and they're very good at those things. So therefore, they feel like it must be something to do with that, because they can understand that area of themselves and of what's required. But then there's the business stuff, which they just don't understand, right? So I don't think it's perfectly like this, but often there is almost a bit of a split, is that we're almost business people or we're creative people. And sometimes, it can be hard to kind of match the two. So, a lot of my work and a lot of the things I help people with is actually bringing those things together as well. So just really wanted you to think about that as we sort of dive into the session, because a lot of the things I'm going to be covering are going to really be talking about these two sides. So the first thing is around how to know what to focus on in your creative business. And this is really interesting because focus can be really hard. You're a creative person, you've got a lot you can do, you've got a lot that you're excited about. That's fantastic. But what can actually sometimes happen is that you lean into the wrong thing. Because there's hundreds of things to do. Like I kind of think about it as like a big puzzle piece, maybe a 10,000 piece puzzle, which I've never done a 10,000 piece puzzle, but that's a lot of pieces. We wouldn't even know where to start. So what sometimes happens is we just do stuff. We try and find things to do to focus on, and we do things, and that's okay. But the problem is, it may not get you anywhere where you need to go, or it just may take you a very long time, which we don't want things to take a long time. Yes, we're okay with things taking some time, but we want things to move faster. So this is where, when you're talking about what to focus on, it's the things that are going to move the needle. So referencing what I said before, the art side versus the business stuff, for most people, the thing they need to focus on more is the business stuff. And sometimes that's hard to hear because it's like, well, I'm not excited about that stuff. I can see in the chat there, Brittany's sharing, stop calling me out like that, Logan. Brittany's one of our clients. So we have some great chats about the stuff because it's so real. Like you feel kind of called out of like, oh, but the creative stuff, surely, Logan, it's that. Actually, often it's the business stuff that you do need to focus in on. Now, I'm not saying drop the creative stuff and just do the business stuff. No, like that's part of the business. But what we see again and again is that people say, I don't think my art's good enough because nobody is buying it. It kind of makes sense. Okay, well, I'm not buying, no one's buying, I'm not selling. Obviously I need to lean into that because I'm not good enough. And that's where, some of that imposter syndrome can come from as well. And people lean in and they do even more work. They do another art course, they learn a new medium. And I'm not saying these things are not important. It is great to develop your medium. It is great to work on your art for sure. But for most people, it's not the thing that's in their way. It's just the safe space that they lean into. So the answer to that question of what to focus on is really probably going to be learning more about the business stuff. And actually, that could be marketing, could be some of the scary things that feel uncomfortable. So it's not going to be that you need to know everything right away. But if it's a creative business, we've got to remember the word business in there as well. So, it doesn't need to be the stuffy, boring business stuff, but it does need to be something that you do lean some of your time and energy into. So, I love this stuff, very passionate about it. Love to hear your thoughts around this, Jess, in terms of your journey and reflecting on that as well for the group.
Yeah, totally. Before working with Logan, I was kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. I didn't really have like I had like a business, but I didn't really know how to run it. I didn't really have any kind of structure or guidance. So after working with Logan, even in like the very beginning, like we established, what is like my mission for my business? Like, what are my core values? And I think that that's like super important, and it really like turned this lens of like treating it more like a business and not just freelancing here like willy-nilly. And also like working with Logan, I learned how to diversify my income streams, and that was huge. Because before, in the very early days, I was relying solely on client work, and and if you're an illustrator like me, it can be difficult because you'll have some months where it's really good months and really successful, lots of projects coming in, and then other months where it's crickets. The clients are very quiet, and you don't know what to do because you don't know where your next job is coming from. So after talking with Logan, we kind of leaned into my strengths, and he's like, what about like partnerships and art licensing? And so that really opened up a lot of doors, and it really expanded my business.
I love it. This stuff is so important because it's really sometimes just refocusing. So, it's not like Jess just stop doing art. She actually leaned into some of the business stuff and the right sort of thing. So we're going to talk about this even more because I think this is just such a good topic here. The next point I'm going to take everyone through today is around confidence. So the importance of confidence and mindset, and I think I kind of almost think the word mindset these days kind of can sound a little, it can still sound, some people say it sounds a little woo-woo, for better or for worse. But I'm like, this is such an important thing that we see, is that it's actually a skill set. Like growing your confidence. Confidence is a skill set. Sometimes we think, oh, well, either I just have great confidence or I don't. Yes, maybe naturally some people have high confidence, but actually we've got to remember it's a skill set that we can develop, we can grow, we can work on, we can bring up our confidence. And that's something that not only is it something you can do, it's something you have to do to grow a successful creative business as well, because it underpins absolutely everything that you need to do. You're going to have to be sending emails to potential clients. You're going to have to be posting on your social media. You're going to have to be working through some kind of negotiation stuff that sounds kind of terrifying. It's like, well, confidence underpins everything, even confidence in obviously your artwork itself. It's going to come in there too. So, it's important to note that a lot of people, especially when they're starting out in their business in early stage and trying to grow it, confidence is something that they just need to work on. It's just as important as learning about social media or learning about the different strategies you could use in taking action, is also learning about confidence and how confidence affects you, and also what you can do to increase your confidence as well. So a couple of quick things, and these are things we teach a lot more about in the programs we run, is that a couple of things you can do. One of them is just to celebrate wins. We go on about this a lot, is that most people don't celebrate their wins. They're just always on to the next thing. Or if they celebrate wins, it's like it's only big wins. All right. I reached this mark, or I've launched this thing, and it's this big, exciting thing, but actually they'll only celebrate it then. Maybe they'll go out for dinner, maybe they'll dance around the living room, but it's the big wins. Make sure you really celebrate them for sure, but it's also the small wins. Every single day you should be actually celebrating the wins. It may feel silly, it may feel like you're doing over the top, and that's okay, because what we need to do is we need to tell ourselves that we are successful people already, and that's going to build on the success. It's very easy to focus on what's not working, on the failures, on the challenges, because there's going to be lots of that. Every single business is going to be lots of that, failure, challenges, difficult stuff, but actually being able to focus on the wins is really, really important, because that will lead you towards more wins, because it's going to boost your confidence up. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing that you can do is do what you say you're going to do. And this is a really interesting one, actually. I talk about this a lot, and a lot of people struggle with this one, because there's two sides to this one, which is do what you say you're going to do. Well, we could be talking about a friend, right? So showing up for a coffee. If you show up late, you said, hey, I'm gonna be there at 9 a.m. We're gonna have a coffee, and you show up at 15 past 9. Well, you're kind of letting your friend down a bit. Your own confidence is going to drop a bit, because you can't get things done. You can't show up for your friends. Yeah, that's one thing. But also it's about what we tell ourselves we're going to do. So we're all ambitious people. We want to move our lives forward in different ways. So we tell ourselves, right, tomorrow I'm going to finish this thing, or I'm going to get up at this time, or I'm going to do this here. We make these commitments to ourselves, and then the next day, maybe they don't happen. And what actually happens as a result is your confidence drops, because your subconscious mind is going, you never say what you go, you never do what you say you do. And therefore it actually drops. So the opposite happens when we do the things we say we're going to do, including in our heads. When we do them, the next day we get the thing done, we get up at that time we've decided, we're going to feel really good, and it's going to raise our confidence. So it's kind of a fascinating thing that can happen with our subconscious mind there. It's almost a bit of a battle sometimes of our conscious versus subconscious mind, and really getting these things aligned in that we want to build our confidence. Sometimes it's not about just doing the thing. Sometimes it's actually about making sure we're being realistic about what we can achieve each day. So a lot of us have a list for today which has 20 items on it, and hopefully we'll get through it. For most people, they're not going to get through those 20 items. At the end of the day, they're going to say, oh man, I only did 4 of these things and I'm such a failure, and I'll give it another go tomorrow. And that's going to lower your confidence for tomorrow. Whereas if you start off with a list and you go, well, realistically 3 things, and you tick them off, you're going to feel great. It's going to fuel you to do even more as well. So that's kind of part of it as well, as sometimes diving into what we can actually do, because you might have a full-time job, you might have children or family you're caring for, you may have other commitments, you've got a busy business, whatever it is, there's a lot to do on top of the big task list that we all have as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts around this one, Jess, as you kind of think about, the last year or two.
Yeah, sure. Mindset is a totally new thing. Like last year, I had no idea like what mindset was, and it isn't something that like they teach you in school, or at least like I, wasn't taught that. And so I really learned about mindset by working with Logan, and I totally agree about like celebrating your wins. And I think it's also to like pushing yourself, like showing up, and also like doing some challenging and uncomfortable things just to get outside of your comfort zone. And I remember, you know, setting goals with Logan, and he would also say like, hey, let's make a stretch goal. Like, let's push this even further. And then last year, you know, I not only crushed my goals, but also crushed my stretch goals. And I think it's even just like thinking in that kind of lens, like just thinking that far in advance, like, yes, you can do it, and you are like totally capable of doing it. So yeah. And it feels so good, even when you accomplish that super difficult thing. It's so rewarding. So
Oh, I love this stuff. I think, you know, just so powerful, and being able to see, for you all being able to actually see some Jess's story and journey, because I think, you know, often we see on Instagram the successes and those things there, but actually being able to see the behind the scenes is really powerful as well. So look, what we're going to just pause and do right now, I'm going to get everyone to share their Instagram links in the chat. I'm going to share mine. Jess is going to share hers as well. Make sure you do share that URL. So go to a website and drop there. Don't just do the @tag, because what that means is that then everyone will be able to just click it and follow you. So this is a great way to build some community with like-minded people. We know it's a powerful part of growing a business is actually having connections of like-minded visual creatives as well. So if everyone can drop their links in there that wants to, and then go through and click and follow everyone that's here on the webinar today. You're going to get some new followers of awesome people today, and that's always nice, but also it's going to help you build your creative community as well. So yeah, go to a website, you know, go to your website, your web browser, open URL, drop it in there, just like people are doing. And same thing if you're ever on a webinar and people say, hey, drop your Instagram tag. Don't ever just do the @tag, because people cannot click on it. They have to like copy and paste it, and it just means that people won't follow you. So a really good hot tip there as well. And Jess and I really want to connect with all of you as well. Very, very cool. I can see everyone is dropping in their chats in the link, which is great, their Instagram links. Very, very cool. Community, it's such a powerful part of it. It's, you know, something that in our programs we really focus on, as well as getting people connected to other like-minded people, because you need it. You need community. You can't build this business in a silo. It's an important thing to have the people around you. Yes, the coaches, the mentors, but also other like-minded people in business as well that can support you. You can support them. You can commiserate. You can celebrate wins. All of those good things together. So I love it. Very, very cool. We're going to jump into the next key point here, and this is a really interesting one, which is really around authenticity. So, you know, the idea here is how to market what you do authentically. Right. So one of the things people struggle with, one of the things a lot of visual creatives struggle with, is the marketing stuff, because it feels salesy, it feels a bit yucky, it feels a bit horrible. You know, shouldn't I just be able to like share what I'm doing, and if people love it, they will come to me? Well, yeah, yes, you should be able to. I kind of agree with that statement. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. Is that marketing is an important part of what you need to do and what you need to learn. You're not going to start off as an amazing marketer when it comes to your business, and that's okay, but it's something you will need to get better at. So, you know, authenticity is really, really important when it comes to marketing. And, you know, what we've really seen this year in particular with Instagram is the more authentic, the better. So, you know, in the past with Instagram, it was a lot more about that, you know, the perfectly curated posts and the perfection of Instagram. And, you know, it's still elements of that there. I'm not saying that's changed, but also what we're seeing is people want to see more of the authenticity, more of the behind the scenes type stuff. So that's where, you know, you might have seen some of the like day in the life of, or week in the life of an artist. Some of those types of posts and reels have actually been performing really, really well, because people want to know behind the scenes. They don't want to just see they're the best piece, the top reel, the 5-star reel of what's happening. People want to see a bit of behind the scenes as well. So, you know, there's lots of different ways to do this, but sometimes just opening up a bit more about yourself where possible can be part of it as well. And this is something where I think a lot of people struggle with, this is showing up personally with their marketing, right? So it's kind of easy to say, oh, this business or this studio, or, you know, kind of not even have your name on any of it, not have your face on any of the things. Like, it's just kind of easier because you don't want to, you feel targeted. People might, you know, say rude things to you. You know, even sometimes I go on people's websites if they've got one set up and there's no picture of them. We don't know who the person is. And what we've got to remember here is that you are your business. So most people we're working with, they're not running a studio with a whole lot of creatives. They are the business. So therefore, and they might have ambitions to grow to a studio one day, and that's great. But often we've got to put them in the business to build trust with clients, potential clients and customers. So that may mean for you showing up occasionally on your social media. Now, I'm not saying you need to be on there dancing around, every single post, but maybe 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 posts or reels could show an element of you. Now, it could be over the shoulder, you creating something. Yes, it could be you, a picture of you. That's fine as well. But there's lots of ways you can creatively show up and show there's an actual person, there's an actual human behind this business. And actually being really proud of that as well. So, when it comes to authenticity, actually you showing up, people buy from people. People want to work with you as the individual. Yes, they may love your creativity, your artwork, your designs, but also they're buying from you. And they want to know who is behind that as well. You get to decide what you do and don't share. I'm not saying share, a daily post of exactly what you had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and what you're doing this evening. Like you don't have to share all that, but you can have a curated version of perhaps your artistic self and your creative business self as well. For you showing up, you're the one in the business within that too. Another really important part of this, and we talk about how to market authentically, is just honesty is absolutely required in business. You can never, and I don't think anyone really intends to be dishonest, but sometimes it could be tempting. You might have a potential opportunity with a client where you're like, well, I'm not going to really deliver something very good to this client because I'm not good at this thing here, but I'm going to take money. I need that for the rent money this week. Like, don't ever do it, because what happens, you're going to feel terrible. They're going to get a bad product. They're not going to repeat with you. They're not going to refer you. You're not going to get a good testimonial. So, some of those like short-term temptations you might have, it's just not worth it. So, and look, I think this is a pretty obvious thing, but when you're deep in business, sometimes you might feel that. So it's really about making sure you're always honest in business, no matter what, because in the end, if you do the stuff that isn't going to work for people, it's not going to be a real business. So yeah, maybe you make a quick buck, maybe make a few dollars, but in the end, like repeats and referrals are absolutely essential in business. Like you have to build a strong business that's going to bring back people to work with you again and again and again. And those people are going to tell other people. Yes, you're going to have to do the outreach, the connection with other people that don't know who you are, never heard of you. You're going to have to do that to grow your network. But also, as you do that, you need to have lots happening with the people you're already working with, because that's going to make it a lot easier for you as well. One of the struggles often early on in business is that you have this like smaller network initially. So people, like, well, I love the idea of repeat clients and referrals, but you don't really have anyone to do that. So often what you've got to do is you've got to grow that network out through different marketing techniques. As you get further and further into your business, you might find you don't have to do as much of the outreach or finding new clients in different ways, because you're getting lots of those repeats and referrals and those things there. But then again, sometimes things will slow down again and you need to get out there again, do more of that marketing side. So I know I've shared lots of different things within this piece here, but Jess, is there something there you'd love to reflect on or share from your journey?
Sure. And just piggybacking off of what you said, I think a lot of it comes down to storytelling. Just like tell your story, share your backstory. People love hearing a story, because there's been times, where I just share a piece of art without any kind of context, and it is okay. But then there's other times where I shared like my epic failures for last year, and that kind of went viral. I think people just really related to it. It was very humanizing. And it was something that I overcame, and it was a good like aspirational story. So I feel like sometimes we, especially with Instagram, we all only want to feature like the best content all the time. But I think that when we go back into our stories and share more, even like those really personal ones that we've overcome, like obstacles, those are usually the ones that really do the best and really give kind of a backstory to who we are and why we do it.
I love it. So powerful. And yeah, storytelling, being authentic, creating these things. And once again, this is not just something you could do. This is something that Instagram and other platforms are recognizing and people are loving. So it's something that is really working as well. We're not saying everything you have to do would have a story or have you, but the more you can bring in story and you into the brand, it's just gonna really help you as well. Awesome. We're going to jump to the next thing here, which is a really good one. It's about when to get a virtual assistant or when to get an assistant in your business of any type. And I'm going to kind of, branch this out even more and sort of say when to get other people involved in your business, contractors, employees, those kind of elements as well. So, the original thing we put was, when to get a VA, because I think this is a great question. A lot of people think, oh, what I could do is I don't like that marketing stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hire someone else to do it for me. Wouldn't that be great? We sometimes have people who say like, oh, do you know of anyone that can just do it all for me? Maybe it's more of kind of an agent, but it's, someone else that can do it, because it's hard, it's scary, it's difficult, it's frustrating. I enjoy the art. I just want to do the art. I don't want to do that stuff there. Now, and it kind of makes sense. Like, I get the line of thinking. The problem is it generally doesn't work. And I'm going to explain why. It's really important that you figure this stuff out yourself first before passing it on to someone else. So it's the same with, if you're going to hire a VA, you should actually be able to run the pieces of the business that they're going to run yourself and know what to do. Because what sometimes people do, they make this mistake where they basically are like, well, I hate, let's give an example. I don't like doing cold email. Ugh, horrible. So what they do is they hire someone that they pay whatever amount, and they say, look, I want you to do cold email, go for it. And the person goes, cool, how do I do that? And you say, I don't know, you work it out. I've never done it before. So something you're not going to be able to direct them. So what are they going to do? They're just going to do their best to figure it out, but they don't know your business the best. You know your business. They're just doing their best. They're probably going to be online doing some Googling, trying to figure it out. And they're ultimately not going to do a very good job. And then in 2 months' time, you're going to be saying to them, how's it going? And nothing seems to be happening. And they're like, yeah, well, I'm doing my best. And you're like, oh, this person's here when you get rid of them. It's like, no, this person needs very, very clear and specific direction. And actually, you need to have done it first to give them that direction. If you want someone who's just going to go with it, you'd probably have to pay a lot of money. And even then, they don't know your business like you do. So they're just doing their best. They may be an amazing email copywriter who can do that. But actually, before you hire that out, you probably actually want to make sure that you know what is needed first. You are your business, right? So this is an important part of that as well. And you just got to sometimes be a bit wary. There's lots of other examples within this too, but it's something that we sometimes see people do it. They hire on team or a VA or someone to do stuff that they can't do. Now, I'm not saying you need to be amazing at doing it yourself. You just need a system in place that they can then roll with. You need to figure it out yourself so that you can pass on and say to them, hey, I've been doing this for the last 6 months, a year or 2 years, whether it's this piece or that piece of the business. Here's how it works. Here's what I've found works so far. Here's a system. Here's when I post. Here's when I do this. You can pass that on to them. Here's how it works with me and my business and my clients. And yeah, they might adapt it. They'll bring in their skills and expertise. And yes, ultimately they might be better at it than you. Also, they can focus on it. They're going to have time to focus on it. So, just be very, very aware of that. And the other thing I will mention around hiring people and VAs is that you can't just give them a task and then see you later, go do your thing and just leave them to it. You have to continually support them, train them. It takes time. Having weekly or a meeting every week, one-to-ones, all of those things, because it's what people do. They go, okay, cool, you go do the thing, see you later. Let me know if you have any problems. Well, no, they need direct support from you because you know the business best and you need to give them feedback. It's the same with my team, right? I've got a team here that we work together. Yeah, I have one-on-ones with all my team every week. We're supporting each other. We have morning huddles with the whole team. Like, all of those things are really, really important because it's about supporting and training and working together long term. So, just an important part of it, right? What I said originally is when to get a VA. Sometimes people want a really direct answer, which I will give you. From what I've seen, you need to be earning at least $5,000 to $10,000 per month before really considering getting an assistant VA. Now, there's always exceptions. We've worked with people that are earning less than that have decided they're going to pay a VA, someone who's going to do a few hours each week. That can be a good thing. That's totally fine as well. Also, we've got people who are earning well over $10,000 that don't have a VA and don't need one, right? So, it is very much I call it the Logan rules of thumb, but, there's lots of dependent factors here. But for most people, they consider the idea of getting, a VA and assistant for the wrong reasons. It also takes a lot of time to get the benefits. So that's kind of why you have to be earning, these higher levels. So whether we're talking USD, euros, pounds, I mean, the currencies are relatively similar at the moment, a little bit of difference in there. It's really going to be 5 to 10,000, because you need to be able to go several months paying them without seeing any results, because it's going to take them some time to really have that impact. You're going to have to train them. It's going to take time, all those things there as well. So if you're expecting it straight away to have an impact on your business because you need to bring in the funds, you need to be aware it might take a little bit longer. So yeah, we'd love to hear your insights and thoughts around this stuff, Jess.
Yeah, I do get questions from time to time about people asking if I have a virtual assistant, and I don't. I party of one. I do everything right now. I'm probably at the point where I should hire someone, but kind of like what Logan was saying, I kind of need to have like a checklist in place and make sure, I have assignments and a role for them before I can just hire somebody on willy-nilly. But what I have done is kind of baby steps into that. And so one thing was just hiring someone to clean my house. Like, that was something that was taking up a lot of my time, and it was something I hated to do. And I ended up hiring my neighbor, and she loves to come clean my house. It like takes that stress off, and I can pay her like, twice a month she comes and cleans it. And it just frees me up so I have more time to be creative. And then a simple thing like getting HelloFresh, like I should be their spokesperson because I love HelloFresh. Like, for me, just going to the store and meal prepping, like that was just draining me of time and energy. It was something that, I didn't have a lot of time to do, being a mom and also running my creative business. And so just signing up for HelloFresh, having all of the ingredients delivered to me so I can just make the meal as I go. I don't have to like plan anything. It has been such a lifesaver and totally worth the money. So even things like that, where you don't even have to like hire a person, but maybe it's a service or something that can just free up your time so that you have more time to be creative.
I love it. And such a powerful approach here is like, it's not always the business stuff. It's stuff that is taking up your time and energy. And sometimes like for Jess, it might not be, it's not going to save you 5 hours a week. It might just save you an hour or two of stuff that you don't really enjoy doing in the first place. And it's time consuming, but it's also energy draining. Whereas you could spend that hour or two extra every week on really important business things that you want to work on. And by the way, when I say an extra hour a week on the business stuff, it might not even be that. It might be an hour or two extra each week, relaxing, taking a break, resting, getting some more sleep, whatever that is. It's an important part of it as well, the wellness side. We're not gonna talk so much about the wellness side today, but I'm a big fan of that side. It's something that I'm very anti-hustle culture. It's about working smarter, not harder, faster, stronger. So anyway, we won't get distracted about that side, but just wanted to put that piece in there as well, is that the wellness side of business is very important. Hey, we do have Q&A time coming up next. So if you have any questions that you would love to ask myself or Jess, ideally kind of around the topics that we've shared, but if there's other things, that's okay too. And just pop it in the chat and we'll dive into answering as many as we can. As I did say, there was a couple that were sent in beforehand that we'll try and dive into too. But if you can add in questions, and we're not gonna always get through all of the questions, we'll see how we go. I do have one more point I am going to share, so fire it in any time. What we're going to be talking about for this final point here is basically around, what are my thoughts around print on demand and licensing. And, I'm going to share some different elements of this and different perspectives, I think is important too, because, I've got some pretty interesting, maybe a bit different perspectives from what you may have heard as well. And often I know when I get on calls, sometimes I connect with people for the first time and share these views. They're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So, this is a chance just to share a different point of view for you. So the first thing I always say is that it depends on your goals, right? So we talk about print on demand and licensing. These are two very different things as potential revenue streams. Yeah, they're potential revenue streams. Both of them are, but it's going to depend on your goals. What are your goals to do at the moment? If your goal is to leave your day job ASAP, then putting 100% of your energy into these two things probably isn't going to get you there. And I say probably because I've never seen it actually happen. And there's several reasons for that, but it just really depends what your goal is. If your goal is just kind of have a side hobby business that earns a little bit of money here and there, then yeah, you could put 100% of your time and energy into these areas and there's no rush to build this, okay, well, that's fine as well. So it just comes down to your goals. Most people that we talk to and then we end up working with, they want to maybe leave their day job as soon as possible, ideally in the next year, and they want to earn $10,000 as soon as possible or beyond, right? We sometimes work with people that are already earning $10,000 per month and they want to grow that. So most people, that's what they want, obviously without selling their soul and those things there. So, what we've got to be very aware of, these two different things here, print on demand and licensing, they're things that can take a long time. So I'm just going to talk about them individually because they are very, very different things. So firstly, print on demand, it can be part of what you do, but we need to be very, very aware it's incredibly saturated now. It's a very saturated place. Yes, it's pretty easy, but it's a pretty saturated place. There's a lot of competition, a lot of people on there, there's a lot of amazing artwork on there now. So if you are going to focus on print on demand type things, I recommend you make sure it's only about 10 or 20% of your energy that you're putting in, because it's probably not the thing that is going to move the needle enough to have a big impact. If you love it, if you enjoy it, if you're passionate about it, sure, like you can do that. But for most people, and we have a lot of conversations, people we don't work with as well as we do work with, for most people, they're bringing in very, very little from it. So it can be a proportion of what you do. So that's the first one there to think about. We sometimes see people, I have conversations with people who are like, oh, I'm 100% putting my energy into print on demand and it's not working. And I'm a terrible artist. And I'm like, you're not a terrible artist. You're just in a platform that right now is very saturated. It's very hard to earn, good money from that. So, actually, yeah, it can be part of the equation, but we need to bring in some other elements into this as well. So that's kind of the first piece there. The second piece is obviously talking more about licensing. And yeah, definitely licensing is a great area. It definitely does a lot better than print on demand these days. We've got a lot of clients who have licensing as part of what they do. But once again, it probably can't be 100% of what you do. The dream is there of what these things look like and how they're kind of semi-passive income. But the reality is you're probably going to have to match it with other things as well. So our recommendation generally, especially for people that are maybe earlier stage in their business, is that maybe they would spend 30 or 40% of their energy on something like licensing if they want to. I'm not saying you have to, right? If you're not, you've got plenty of clients that just don't do licensing or print on demand at all. But if you are really passionate about it and you want to do that, yeah, you could spend 30% of your time on licensing. You've just got to remember that it's going to take time. And that's a big thing. It takes a lot of time. Some of you might have done some licensing courses. You would have heard this as well. Look, it might be 1 to 2 years before you really see great income coming out of that. So, that's just one thing to think about. Once again, I see people just trying to just do licensing and print on demand. It takes a lot of time and they're feeling pretty discouraged. And it means that they're actually slowing down. So, often what we need to see is that there's going to be some sort of client-based work. Now, it's not always client-based work, there's sometimes exceptions, but some of you here might have heard me talk about $300 plus or 300 euros or pounds plus. That's kind of a rule of thumb. You really should have stuff that you can sell in your business that is 300 plus. The reason for that is because it's a numbers game. If you want to start earning 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 per month, well, you're going to have to actually have some higher price offers. It's very hard to do that off $5 to $50 type offers. So, I'm talking about a few different things here, but just really wanted to raise this as something to really think about as well. So, one more thing I'm going to add, and this is a bit controversial to be honest, is that Logan hates the word passive income. I know a lot of people love the word passive income, but that's just my view on it. I just prefer to call it scalable income. So that for me, it's more semantics, because what I believe is that pretty much nothing is actually passive. So licensing and print on demand, a lot of people call them passive income. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not gonna message them and say you shouldn't call it that. I call it scalable income. It's because there's still a lot of work that is required to set them up and keep them running, maintain the relationships. Sure, you can end up putting a pretty small amount of energy eventually into them, for example, licensing, and getting some good payouts, but it's more scalable for your time. It's not passive. Nothing is completely passive. They actually often require more work than people think. So just wanted to share that as well within that point. I'd love to hear your thoughts around the stuff, Jess, before we jump into the questions.
Yeah, totally. I actually use print on demand for a completely different thing. I use it kind of as a marketing tool, because I don't make a lot of money through print on demand, it is oversaturated. It's just basically an extension of my portfolio. It's another site for me to put my artwork on and to also like manifest it on products. And the same with my Etsy shop too. Like I have a few people here and there that want to buy prints from me, and I'll sell it through my Etsy shop, but that's not my bread and butter. Like I make very, very little money off of my Etsy page, but I still have it because they have such powerful SEO. And when I look back on my link tree about like which site is like the most clicked, it's by far and away my Etsy shop page, which I think is so funny. So yeah, I keep it for marketing purposes, which is totally different, which maybe you might want to consider too. It's just, another idea. And then as far as art licensing goes, I completely agree with Logan that it's a slow burn. And I was frustrated when I first started out licensing, because when I first started, like I would create a pattern or a piece of artwork and I just wanted to sell it right away. I just wanted to license it. And like, here it is, it's ready. But it took me some time. Like I really had to build a collection and think about, colors and patterns and the context of how this is going to be sold. And so and that really helped. And then just the more I just kept showing up and putting myself out there, I landed like my Casetify collection that just kind of snowballed. So I think it's just realizing that art licensing is really powerful, but it's also a slow burn. And also, I totally completely agree with Logan. I often say passive income, but it is not passive, because there is a ton of work that you have to put into like your collection and to, creating licensable art. So it is, he has a much better word for it. Scalable is totally the correct word that you should use.
I love it. It's so good. And I get it. I think sometimes people just use different words for different things. So, Jess and I are certainly on the same page around the stuff in terms of the work that it takes as well, which I think is really interesting. So love it. What we're going to do now, we do have some time for questions, and I can see some have popped into the chat already, which is good. So just before we jump into that, I'm going to share the survey link again if that's something you're interested in getting on a freebie call, once again with myself or Paul from the team. So I'm going to drop that in here, open that up. It'll be in the email afterwards as well with the recording. We love being able to see where you're at, and once again, filling it out, you're just going to learn a bunch of stuff about what's in your way as well, which people love. We're going to jump into the first question we're going to start with here is actually the question from Nancy, because it kind of rolls off what we've been talking about here. Hope you're doing well, Nancy. It's good to see you here again. So look, Nancy shared this question: what revenue streams do you recommend? So kind of going off what we already talked about here, obviously it's a pretty general ask question, but I recommend anything that's going to be 300 USD plus. Well, we could do 300 euros or pounds plus. So, I've sort of mentioned that before, but those are the ones I recommend because it is a numbers game where if you don't have a big following and you don't have a big marketing reach, well, you're just not going to be reaching that many people. So you do the numbers, like literally do the numbers of $5,000 per month and divide it by whatever you're charging. You see how many you have to sell every single month. So it means if you're mainly focusing on things that are under $300, it's going to take a lot. You're going to sell a lot of units per month, and you're probably not going to have the reach for it. And even 300, that's kind of like bare minimum, right? So sometimes people say, oh, I can't think of 300. I've got $1,000 off. And I'm like, no, $300 plus, $1,000, $500, $5,000, even better, right? It's going to make things a lot easier for you. So look, I'm not saying you can't do the lower revenue things. I'm just saying put most of your energy, and that could be 70-80% of your energy, into things that are over 300. That's really the way to look at it. You could do some of those other things as well. We've got clients that have Etsy stores. We've got some clients that, of course, do things like licensing as well. Licensing is a funny one because it's sort of hard to quantify the amount, but the main thing is that you wouldn't have it as 80% of your targeted revenue wanting to be licensing, maybe 30%, 40%. And then you've got other elements you build up. And this is even, good to think about. Even people like Jess with, larger followings, they often find those lower ticket things can be kind of challenging as well. So, some people say, oh, if I had $100,000, I could build a business off $5 products. You might be surprised, right? Obviously Jess has been able to merge like many people as her revenues change. I know Jess, you've shared those great pie charts over times. And like, yeah, revenue will change. And you may find over time, you're able to do more of the scalable forms of revenue, but most people don't start like that. And that's a very interesting thing to think about as well. So, hey, did you want to share anything, Jess, around the childcare question there? You want to jump into something around that?
Yes, I do have childcare. My daughter is in preschool full time. But one thing though, she is sick very frequently. So I'm usually, since I'm like, working from home business, I'm usually the one that has to take care of her, and that does like take a lot of time. So I think it's also trying not to overcommit, because in the beginning I did that a lot, where I would take on like these really time-consuming projects and push myself, and then my daughter would get sick and it's like I couldn't work for a week. So I think it's yeah, trying to find that delicate balance can be probably the biggest challenge in my business. But yes, to answer your question, I do pay for childcare.
It's a good thing about, probably about a third of people we actually work with have young children, so they're trying to balance those things as well. There's lots of different ways to do that. Cool. We're gonna keep working through these questions. We've got another 10 minutes or so we'll do what we can here. So I love this question here from Anna, talking about authentic reels and posts. How do you create yours when you show yourself? So I think there's some good stuff here that we can share around this. So do you have someone to help with it, or use a cool tripod? Right, I think everyone does both of these things. So yeah, you could get someone to help. Generally, there's not someone around to help because our friends, our family are busy. People are off at work, things like that. Doing what they do. So it's not always. If you wait for someone to be around, it's another barrier in your way. It's definitely an option. They can encourage you. They also might make you feel more nervous. So actually having some sort of basic setup, and that could be going online and finding a tripod of some sort that's going to work. There's tons of different things. You can get tripods with ring lights, because often the lighting is a bit of a problem as well. You get the ring lights with the one in the middle. My ring light I've got here is like a small one, but my previous one did have a fitting for a camera, for my phone that I could put in there. These days for me, I use I haven't got it with me right now, but I use this tiny little plastic thing, which is basically just one of those iPhone holders. You can just sit it on your desk. So I literally use that, get it at the right angle, and then I record something that way. So it's like literally one of the $5 product. That's what I use. But once again, there's lots of different things here you could be using. One other thing I'm going to share around this: are there any secret tips that you can share to make the process easier and more enjoyable? Yeah, I think everyone kind of hates to take themselves, to be honest, Anna. Like I really do. Like I part of our business on our Flame Entrepreneur account, I do share. There's a lot of me talking, and I don't necessarily just find that super easy either. Like it's just something I have to kind of get into the right zone and mood for. My secret tip, and no one here is allowed to tell anyone. It's a big secret. There's a few too many people here to tell, but it doesn't matter. Then my secret tip is that try and do them batches. So try and batch your content where possible. It's just going to mean, rather than trying to come up with something today, what am I going to post today? Try and actually batch a bunch of content. I'm talking about the recording as well. And sometimes what I do is I will record one of my 1 minute kind of business tip videos, and then I'll change the angle of the room and I'll record another one. Then I'll go into the next room, record another one.
Change your clothes.
And Jess knows that. I think I have shared this with Jess before. Is I did change the clothes, right? Everyone does it. Sometimes my shirts all lined up, and I'm just like, I'll do 1, 2, 3, right? Next shirt, change. Next shirt, change. Next shirt, change. So sometimes the posts that I'll share, the reels we'll share across a month, are actually filmed on all in one day. Right. And that's where it's still good information. It's still, you're still creating great content, but it just means that I don't really want to each day have to go, what am I going to share today? What am I going to do? Instead, I can do it in bulk. Do you have anything else you wanted to add on that one, Jess, just before we move on?
Yeah, I definitely have a tripod. It was a cheap $20 iPhone tripod I bought on Amazon. I also have one that sits on my desk that just films up above with me doing my hands. And I hate filming myself. I hate talking in front of the camera. I feel super uncomfortable. But what I found kind of a happy medium is just showing my hands doing my artwork and then me talking over it. So it's kind of just a voiceover of how, my whole process. And that kind of seems to be a happy medium between that. And then if I do have to show my face, I use a teleprompter. And I discovered that while filming my Skillshare class. And they told me like, oh yeah, just write out a script and like memorize a line at a time. And like, that was like torture for me, and it was super awkward. And so I looked into teleprompters, and I found this cheap one that was an app, and I just write out my script. I put it on my phone, and then it's just like me talking naturally. I can set the timings so that, you know, it flows kind of naturally to my conversation. And it has been such a game changer, and it was really affordable, and people don't even know that I'm like using a teleprompter. So it's helped a lot.
I love that. Definitely some really good tips there for everyone to think about. So, you know, I think these things it's really like for you, Anna, and everyone here, whatever makes things easier for you to just do it, because everyone's going to feel nervous and a bit weird about these things. And things like Jess has shared, the teleprompter, or if it is a tripod, like it's not usually, some people are like, oh, you know, I have to get the best tripod in the world to make it easier. That's not the thing in your way. The thing in your way is not having an amazing tripod. The thing in your way is that you're just scared of filming, which pretty much everyone is. They're actually getting something, getting out there, doing it, taking action on that. And yeah, some accountability around it. I know, you know, Anna's actually here in one of our programs, so she knows all about the accountability side and the importance of that as well. So look, we've got one more question we're going to jump into, then we're going to go do takeaways, and we're going to wrap things up. And I think this one here from Leila is a really great one around feeling overwhelmed. And you know, a lot of people we work with, a lot of people we talk to, yeah, they see there's too many things to do. There's a complete overwhelm when it comes to the amount of stuff that you can do, should do, could do, all of those things. How do you choose what to focus on, what sort of niche area to focus on here? And once again, kind of lots of things, and it depends, right? There's lots of factors here, but I often think about these three areas of what to focus on. And it comes down to, if you think about your products and services that you could offer, you might be like, Logan, I could do like 20 different things. So you can do 20 different things, you just can't do them all right now. So you're going to have to often focus in to start with. And we often say to people, let's get focused on like 3 areas. And that could be 3 areas of revenue, depending on how you group them. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 5. But most people are trying to do 20 different areas, like niches, right? They're like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I've got an Etsy store, I've got this, I also do that. And I'm like, okay, right, let's narrow it down. So often it's thinking about the short term versus the longer term strategy. So as I said, you can do all the 20 things, you just can't do them all right now. So it's going, okay, well, what would you focus on first? And that really needs to be the things that are going to move the needle in your business financially. Right? We know it's not all about the money, but actually it is when it comes to leaving a day job, getting financial security, being able to focus on this full time. You're going to have to bring in the revenue. So therefore, you're going to have to find the things that can bring in revenue. So revenue means people will pay for them, right? So the world needs these things, people are willing to pay for them. Also, it's something that you're already skilled in. Ideally, you don't need to like go and upskill for 6 months. Yeah, maybe you need to adapt your skills, and that could take a month or 2. Like that's totally fine. But you shouldn't have to go and learn something for 6 to 12 months, because that's just you leaning into the creative side, which is easier to lean into rather than the business side. But the other part of it is something that you enjoy doing. So there's just going to be different levels of enjoyment. Generally, earlier on in your business, you might be doing some of the sort of work that you're not as excited about, but it's very marketable, very easy to do. You've got people in your network that have done it, that would want it, and also you're very good at it. So sometimes we work with graphic designers, for example, who are like, oh, I'm not really passionate about graphic design anymore. And we're like, cool, but like, is there still some joy in it? And they're like, yes, but I want to be doing more of this work. Sometimes it makes sense to focus on that initially to get things moving, because then once they've got the revenue coming in, they can then move into other areas that they're more passionate about. Now, I'm not saying you have to do stuff that you hate. In the end, if you hate graphic design, you're like, never gonna do that again, that's totally fine. Like, we totally get that, but often it's going to be part of the journey to have some things you're less excited about, and then over time you can do more and more that you're fully excited about. And you should reach a point in your business when you're earning well over $10,000 per month where you can just start saying no to anything that you just don't want to do and say yes to anything that you're super excited about. That's an amazing part of business to be in as well. Hey, very much aware of time, everyone. I know there's been a bunch of other questions there we haven't quite got to. So look, just such a delight to connect with everyone today. Jess and I would love everyone to share one takeaway from today. Everyone can share one thing in the chat. What's a takeaway been? What's a learning been? What's something that you found interesting? Could be an insight, it could be an action. If everyone can just share one thing, just as we wrap up this workshop in the next couple of minutes. What's been useful? What's been helpful? If you just want to pop something in the chat as we come to wrap up. Honestly, Jess and I have had such a blast today. We always love being able to do these webinars and really share some expertise and some ideas as well. So, all right, Haley, very useful thinking about how to prioritize different revenue streams. Yeah, that prioritization. A lot of people find that kind of that percentage approach is quite helpful. Cool. Admitting saturation and print on demand. Yep, done it for sure. List sharing. Look for ways to. Well, I've completely lost you there. Look for ways to take things off your plate, like HelloFresh. Yeah, that was a really hot tip there from Jess. I love that. Meg, do the things I tell myself I will, and love the idea of teleprompter. Yeah, that's a good one. Focus on 1 to 3 things. Offers, get good at it, earn a lot, and then you can grow outwards. Yeah, Caroline, I love that. Layla, licensing takes time. Never thought of that. Yeah, sometimes people just don't think of these things. Why is this not working? Well, it just takes time. Within that too. Choose something you enjoy doing and make you money to move the needle in your business. I love that. Need to diversify. No hustling, work smarter, not harder. Franklin, I love that. So many amazing things being popped in here. So everyone just have a read through the chat, all the cool things that people are sharing. We're going to wrap things up for today. It's just been such a delight. Once again, we do have that survey that we would love people to fill in. Always love sharing, seeing where people are at, and we'll give away 3 of those freebie coaching calls with me for 30 minutes, and then also a bunch with Paul from my team as well. So do keep an eye out for an email from Celeste from the team if you do fill that in. Such a delight. We're going to say goodbye for now. Have a lovely rest of your day. Awesome. Take care, everyone.